I don't know if you heard, but Supergirl is trash. The DC universe is ending. Millie Alcock ruined the movie. Film audiences don't like women. This movie was an atrocity. I'm wearing a General Zod shirt because I'm evil and I hate Supergirl. I actually haven't seen the movie though. Welcome back to John's Comic Corner. Today, ultimately, I don't even want to talk about this movie because I'm pretty sick of the discourse around it. Honestly, it's probably a fine movie, but I personally don't even really want to go see it. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I think it highlights maybe a growing disappointment with comic book fans where they adapt, loose term, adapt some of the characters and stories that we love, and it's just hit or miss. And that's sort of what I feel about this movie, and it's sort of what turns me off from going to see it. So, that being said, this video is for people who maybe are disappointed with the direction the movie took Supergirl, or enjoyed the movie and would like to see more. So really, this is, if we really boil it down, this is like, these are the good Supergirl comics to check out. I've said it before, I don't know why, but I really like Supergirl. I don't know if it's the design, I don't know if it's, like I said, the costume or the characterization. I haven't read a lot of Supergirl books. I have seen her in team books, and I guess I just like the vibe. And that sort of irked me, I guess, the direction they were taking Supergirl in this new DC Universe movie, and why I ultimately didn't go see it. It just, I guess, didn't fit the vibe that I liked about Supergirl. Which made me wonder, maybe I should go read some Supergirl comics and see, like, what the dealio is. And then make this video, like I said, for those who were disappointed or want to know a little bit more. Like, this is the on-page portrayal of Supergirl that they're ostensibly drawing from. So I just want to go through a little bit of the history of Supergirl, as well as some of the seminal stories that we've seen in the past, like, 30 years or so. So I haven't read all of these comics, but I read the first, trade paperback volume of each of the runs we're going to talk about, with some exceptions, to, like I said, get a better grasp on Supergirl, what her character is actually like, rather than just going on vibes alone. Supergirl was initially introduced in Action Comics 252, where it began or continued a long tradition of some people survived Krypton other than Superman, and they come to Earth. In this case, Supergirl was raised in Argo City on Krypton, and Argo City survived the destruction of Krypton. Her dad, the brother of Jor-El, the father of Superman, her dad was able to make it so the city survived Krypton. So she grew up on Krypton till she was about 15, 16. And then a meteor shower, just a regular meteor shower, started to destroy Argo City. So he sent Supergirl to Earth to be mentored by her cousin. So normally in later iterations, she shows up to protect Cal and shows up later than anticipated. But in this one, I guess Jor-El, Jor-El's brother, Zor-El was well aware that she would be arriving when Cal was an adult, and he would help her adjust to Earth life, I guess. So she lands on Earth, she links up with Superman, she takes the secret identity Linda Lee. She begins living in a town called Midvale. She gets adopted by a family called the Danvers, and she takes the name Linda Lee Danvers. And so she's basically, part of the Superman family. She's doing crime fighting like Superman does. She's flying around. She's got all of his same powers, and, they do some adventures together. And then Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, and she died. It's like a pretty big part of that book. She's a pretty big part of the book, so it's like a really meaningful sacrifice in the universe. But she dies, and the DC universe is ultimately sort of rebooted after the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this is where things get a little weird, and this is where the first story I want to talk about sort of comes into play. After the Crisis on Infinite Earths, sometime after this, Superman goes to a pocket dimension, and in this pocket dimension, Lex Luthor is like a good guy. but it's not like Earth 3, so I don't know what that's about. But in this pocket dimension, Lex Luthor, he's a good guy. He invents something called the Matrix. The Matrix is like a protoplasmic, shape-shifting entity that when Superman arrives, the Matrix takes the form of Supergirl. I don't know if it's like, oh, you're my dead cousin. I don't even think it's like that. I think it's like, hey, I'll just be the girl version of Superman. Again, someone correct me. I don't know. Superman leaves that pocket dimension. I think it like collapses on itself or something. But the Matrix gets out. And now the Supergirl of the main continuity is a protoplasmic shape-shifting entity called the Matrix who looks like Supergirl. You follow? I don't know why they did this. I think it's really stupid. But you can't fault them. It is pretty original. Also, later she dates Lex Luthor, but not like Lex Luthor who cloned himself and transferred his consciousness into like a younger version, and he's got like a ginger mullet and a beard and everything, and that's what she was up to during the whole Death of the Superman situation. And it's like, oh, he's dating my worst enemy. She's dating my worst enemy. This is crazy. Again, weird. But this brings us to the first run I want to talk about. So in 1996, they kicked off a Supergirl series written by Peter David. In this, the Matrix merges with a woman named Linda Danvers. Linda Danvers is a cult follower who was about to die, and the Matrix came together with her, and both consciousnesses now live in the same body. But it seems to be mostly Supergirl. Supergirl seems to be the main entity in control here. You don't really hear Linda's voice all that much, but since she's like a shape-shifting protoplasmic whatever, she can change bodies to Linda and then change back to Supergirl. But since doing this, her powers are limited. I don't think she can shapeshift into anything else anymore, and she's lost some of her powers. This leads to Supergirl living Linda's life by day and then being Supergirl when she needs to go fight crime. Linda was a troubled person, though, and so part of this run is Supergirl reconciling Linda's relationship with her parents and her place in the world and sort of putting her on the right track, because she was like started as this cult victim and then became like a perpetrator of the cult and was doing weird like stuff. The cult leader was like her boyfriend, a guy named Buzz. Looks like a goon. He is like a demon. He's like 2,000 years old. He's like this demonic sort of thing, and he just wants to like bring hell on Earth, and he views Supergirl as like this angel to his devil, you know. What's weird about this Peter David run is that it's like weirdly like religious-y. Like it's like Supergirl's going to church and she's like trying to find her place in the universe by learning from pastors, but it's also like a critique of organized religion a little bit, because like some of the pastors suck and they're all just asking for money or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't think it landed very well personally. I just thought it was like a weird mix, but clearly Peter David wanted to talk about like, you know, the religious concept of the human experience with Supergirl and how that relates to the comic book universe. So, but again, her parents, Linda's parents, don't know that she's Supergirl. So there's a little bit of like mishaps and misadventure that way. But there's actually a really interesting issue where her parents meet this Buzz guy who's just trying to like sow chaos, and he wants to go on a date with Linda. Her parents don't even know that this guy used to be a cult leader or whatever that she was following. And Supergirl knows this guy's bad news. He knows she's Supergirl. The parents don't know anything, and they have dinner together, and it's actually kind of interesting. So that was like a highlight of the run. Ultimately, though, like I said, it's not really Kara Zor-El, like the gold standard Supergirl. It's this weird Matrix situation. They're in the same body. She likes skateboarding now because, of course, it's the 90s, and the only way to know if you're cool is if you can skateboard. So I don't know. I found it entertaining, but probably not something I want to go back and continue. But if that sounds interesting to you, give it a look. The art is by Gary Frank. Gary Frank goes on in the coming, decade in the New 52 era and the Rebirth era to do some of the most incredible art and some of the biggest books. But this is almost like a younger Gary Frank, and it's kind of interesting to see his style then versus now. So, and then they swept the Matrix situation under the rug. Literally, I was looking at all the information I could. I don't know what happened to her. They just stopped writing about her. If anyone knows, let me know. Have you seen this Matrix? You know, this is when they bring back sort of the old Kara Zor-El origin. So Jeph Loeb, he's written some of the best books like ever. I'm aware there's a little bit of controversy around him, but either way, I generally really enjoy his comics. He wrote a Batman Superman team up book, and one of the main arcs of that run is that Kara Zor-El lands on Earth, and Supergirl is sort of born from there. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they train her, start integrating her into the DC universe, and that's sort of the start there. So Jeph Loeb starts a Supergirl run in 2005, only lasts about 9 issues with him. It changes hands a bit before it sort of gets some consistency there. But the first 9 issues make up a trade paperback, which is pretty solid, I would say. So Kara Zor-El, obviously she's landed on Earth. She's trying to find her place as a superhero, trying to live up to, I guess, the towering figure of Superman, and trying to do her own thing. But she's a little naive, she's a little inexperienced, she's kind of got a little bit of a temper, but she's trying really hard to like be her best. And what I really love about this run is that the whole superhero community is sort of like behind her. You know, Batman, he's training her, he's giving her some tips, and it's like, what could Batman give to Supergirl? But he's like, there's going to be a time when you lose your powers or whatever, and you're going to need to know how to like fight hand to hand. So he trains her on like some martial arts kind of stuff. Superman is also obviously like mentoring her, helping her like bridge the gap between her Kryptonian sort of knowledge and speaking English and being on Earth. Wonder Woman takes her to the island of Themyscira and trains her like to be an Amazon, gives her like discipline and temperance. Kara meets with the Justice League, the Justice Society, the Teen Titans, the Outlaws. She's trying to find her place, and I find that very interesting because every hero she meets is like invested in making sure like she has a good, you know, base. It could be skeptical like, hey, we have another Superman like entity here, we don't want them to go evil, but it feels like everyone sort of genuinely cares about her, and I think that really works on this run. Overall, I think Jeph Loeb gives a pretty good foundation for the start of like a long going Supergirl run. The 2005 run goes for 80 issues, but it switches writers up a fair amount. But I think that initial foundation built there worked to sort of give her own series, and that's sort of where we kick off from there. About halfway through the run, Sterling Gates takes over the Supergirl title. This is where I read a lot of like buzz online, I guess on Reddit, that this was one of the runs worth checking out. It starts with the volume I read is called Who is Superwoman? And it's not that Supergirl is Superwoman, but this mysterious Kryptonian person shows up named Superwoman, and the whole thing is like, who is that? But if we rewind a little bit, we see Kara, she's sort of burning herself out being a superhero. All day, every day, she's saving people's lives, and she really feels like it's her obligation. But she's, like I said, it's taking a toll on her. So Superman suggests maybe she should get like a civilian identity, you know, like a secret identity that she can kind of lie low with and relax, you know. And she struggles with that. She feels like she's ignoring the problems that she's been put there to help with, but she talks to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and they all sort of urge her this way. And she's at the Kent farm because I guess up until now she's been living at the Kent farm. Superman's adoptive parents let her live with them, and she's become familiar with Superman's family and friends, Lois Lane, all them. And Clark Kent sends his high school sweetheart Lana Lang to come and speak to Supergirl. And now Kara knows Lana. I guess at this point Lana knows that Superman is Clark Kent and whatnot, but Lana sits down with Supergirl and they discuss like her life and everything and what she wants to do, and they kind of come up with a secret identity for Supergirl, and it's revealed that Lana Lang takes a job at the Daily Planet. She moves to Metropolis and she introduces the office to her niece Linda Lang. So the idea is that like Supergirl is going to be her civilian identity is the niece of Lana Lang, which I think is really good. Lana Lang, they always keep trying to tie her into the Superman world, but I feel like they don't ever like do it in a substantial way throughout the years. This is pretty good. I really, really love the interactions between Lana and Kara. It really feels like, not necessarily like a mother to a daughter, but really it feels like an aunt who adopted her niece. There when you need her, always supportive, giving her, the wisdom that she needs, is because Kara's like 16, she's growing up, and on top of like navigating adolescence, she's navigating being like this god level entity in the DC universe. And so I thought that was handled really well. When the run finally kicks off, we're introduced to New Krypton. So if you're familiar, the bottle city of Kandor, Brainiac, usually he'll miniaturize a city on all these planets to study them, and it just happened that he miniaturized a city from Krypton. So there is a city from Krypton that has survived, and it's been living inside this little bottle. I guess in this run, they found a way to restore the city, and they put it on a planet, and the planet is called New Krypton. And what do you know? Supergirl's parents were in Kandor when it was shrunk. So this run sort of kicks off with New Krypton finding its place in the universe. There's also a lot of anti-Kryptonian sentiment on Earth, perpetrated by Lois Lane's dad, General Lane. He sucks. He's like this uber-hardened military man who's like stopping at nothing. He's super distrustful of all these aliens. He's like annoyed that his daughter Lois is ostensibly, like, basically dating Superman. He has another daughter named Lucy who's like his protege. She's like this military general underneath him or whatever, and Lois is sort of like annoyed with both of them, but what can you do? Except it ends with the banning of all Kryptonians from Earth except for Superman. So Kara has to go live on New Krypton with her mom and dad. And also the last turn of events is that her dad was murdered by a supervillain named Reactron. And it's super hard on Kara. Kara does not get along with her mom very well. Like her biological mom, Allura is her name. And I found that really interesting, kind of nuanced there. I liked that, I guess I didn't like it, but I thought it was interesting that her mom is like a real sort of like hardened sort of governor of New Krypton. And she's very pragmatic in that way. And it doesn't gel well with Kara, who's trying to do her best, but her mom has like a lot higher expectations of her. And she admits that she misses her dad and identified with him a lot more. And so it's really tough for her. In the midst of all of this Kryptonian woman named Superwoman shows up. She's got like a mask and a hood, and it's a whole mystery throughout the whole book. Like, why does she know so much about Kara? Why does she know so much about New Krypton? No one knows who she is on New Krypton. Is she just one of these Kryptonians that got powers, or what's going on there? And I think it's a pretty compelling mystery. So it's definitely worth going into just for that. But I think Sterling Gates takes the run, goes in a lot of fun directions with it. And again, I like this Kara who's not quite sure of herself, but knows what she wants to do. She knows what like being a hero is, but is still grappling with how to do that. And I think it works really well. She's very hopeful, but very tentatively stepping forward into the world. And so that volume was really, really solid. So that volume ran all the way up to like 2009, 2010, which is when they basically rebooted everything. We've talked about it on this channel to death. DC made the New 52. It basically just restarted everything. Clean slate, clean break. Nothing from the past is relevant here anymore. And this is where we get the New 52 Supergirl. So it follows a similar path where Supergirl crash lands on Earth. She can't speak English. She's dazed and confused. There's like these weird robots that are trying to study her or whatever. And Superman shows up. And to her, 2 days ago, she was on Krypton looking after little baby Kal-El. And then she's lost some of her memories, and she crash lands on Earth, and she doesn't know what's going on. And Kal-El's like, I'm an adult. And she doesn't believe him. They have a fight. It's pretty cool, I guess. She doesn't believe him. After the fight, he's like, you should stay on Earth. We can learn more about Krypton together. We can learn our place in the universe. And she's like, I'm flying back to Krypton. I'm sorry. Doing so, she gets intercepted by this guy named Simon Tycho. He's like a billionaire madman guy, and he's trying to like do experiments on Kryptonians or whatever. And she like basically kills him almost, but not for him to return, not for him to not return later, you know? She goes back to Krypton, and all she finds is Argo City. She had like some coordinates from her pod that she landed on. It takes her to Argo City, and she finds like a message from her dad that lets her know, hey, Krypton was destroyed. We thought we could come with you, but we obviously didn't make it out alive. And then that's when the World Killers show up. So Krypton, the scientists on Krypton were experimenting with these little embryo alien things, and they called them the World Killers. They were creating these beings that could be like weapons of mass destruction. They created 5 of them. Somehow the 5 of them, one of them escaped, probably Doomsday. If I had to guess, I didn't read the rest of this yet, but there's these 4 World Killers that find Kara, and they think she's the missing one because she's like Supergirl, but they find out she's just a run-of-the-mill Kryptonian, and they're like, you know what, we're going back to Earth though, because Earth seems to be where like people get super powered from the yellow sun. And Kara's like, dang it, my cousin lives on Earth, there's a lot of innocent people there, they don't deserve this. So Kara flies back to Earth and fights the World Killers. So that's sort of the gist of that run. What I really like about this Kara is she is angry, she's a little jaded, but she's still like has that heroism, that stalwart sort of attitude. She knows sort of what's right, what she wants to do. She's like really, she's not like an idiot. She's not naive sort of like the other one was, but she's like just a little more skeptical of things, which is sort of like how the New 52 was, I guess. But I really, I guess, liked her characterization. I think the costume is trash, which I've talked about before. But other than that, I know this run goes on to be pretty interesting. She becomes like a Red Lantern later on because of the rage, I suppose. But I think it's cool. Michael Green wrote this. I think he takes her, you know, sort of up and down, upwards into the Rebirth-era. So in 2016, DC sort of did a soft reboot. Not a hard reboot, obviously. It's more like they sort of started gently nudging all their characters to be a little more like the characters who they were before the New 52 reboot. And that's exactly the case here with Supergirl. So after like the stunning events at the end of the New 52 version of Supergirl, she's left depowered a little bit. And there's this organization called the DEO, the Department of Extra Normal Operations or whatever. I guess they help metahumans and their sort of how they integrate into society a little bit. So they're helping Kara like get her powers figured out and her Kryptonian physiology, but they also give her like an adopted family, and that's the Danvers. So she becomes Kara Danvers. She lives in Metropolis. She's enrolled in a high school. So, and they've sort of brought her back to sort of the basic Kara you know and love, right? They framed it that she's come to grips with the fact that her planet was destroyed and her family's dead. She's not as angry, I guess, anymore. She's a little more like that fun and hopeful beacon that you kind of want from a Supergirl. She's also like balancing a high school life and a potential romance, but also being Supergirl. And so I really like that. I think that's a fun balance to have for any character, especially like more of a teen superhero character. It's like that Spider-Man formula. We like to see, you know, them dealing with like human problems. And that's where a lot of these Superman and Supergirl really excel, is in exploring the human problems from people who seemingly have everything. This run also delves into her relationship with her dad, her biological dad, Zor-El. In the New 52, it was revealed that Zor-El survived and he became the cyborg Superman of the New 52 and the Rebirth-era. And he sucks. He wants to revive Argo City, but at the cost of like experimenting on humanity, taking advantage of the resources that are on Earth. So Kara has to decide between, you know, her father and her family and her friends and the other heroes on Earth. And it's a hard decision for her. So that's sort of the crux of that initial arc. I do believe the Rebirth-era is pretty spectacular. People really like it. I also love she does some crossovers with Batgirl. I think they should just give Supergirl and Batgirl like their own book. I think that might be pretty fun. So I always love to see that. Around this time, there was a book written by Mariko Tamaki called Supergirl Being Super. Now, this is out of continuity. I did not read this one. It's on my to-read list, but I haven't read it yet. But it's basically like Supergirl lands on Earth as a baby, and she's raised, in a small town and grows up, navigates, adolescence, growing up, becoming a teen, and learning about her powers. This book it's exclusively on Kara and Supergirl. There's no other heroes in this. It's literally almost like, what if the real world but Supergirl showed up, And where I think it succeeds, where it seems to succeed, is that, or I guess the idea I like about it is that it is very focused on Supergirl. The runs that we've talked about, especially the Jeph Loeb run, is criticized often because it doesn't really let Supergirl shine on her own. It's like a crossover every issue. It's her dealing with the other superheroes and what they think about her. And this is like a more focused character study. And so I definitely want to check that out. It's probably worth looking at if you want like a better grounding. It's like a great coming of age story from what I've read. So yeah. And probably the most recent run of note is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. This is the story that the movie is low-key based on. And that might be why I didn't really want to see the movie all that much. Now, this book has its fans. It's critically acclaimed. It's by Tom King, who I would describe as very hit or miss, but his early stuff is like really good. Tom King loves to write about like depression and trauma and like superheroes dealing with all that. And I think the first couple times I read it, I thought it was brilliant, genius, cut me to my heart, and now I'm just so sick of it. So I'm not gonna lie, I think he kind of fell off. But again, people do like this run, and it clearly resonated with whoever's running the show at DC to make the movie sort of out of this. Basically, from what I could read, Supergirl, it's like her 21st birthday. She gets stranded on a planet. She's very world weary, very jaded. She's sort of like a little lost in life at this point, and she meets like a young woman who wants her to go get revenge on her dad. Like, this young woman's dad got killed. She wants Supergirl to help her go find the guy who killed her dad. And they just run into atrocities and all sorts of awful stuff that they see out in space. It's primarily told through, I guess the character's name is Ruthie, the young woman. It's mostly told through her eyes. But it's also, I guess, about Kara learning that you can still be kind and compassionate even when confronted with life's crap, And that's like kind of, it's a Tom King book, so that's definitely like the theme there. I just feel like it sort of was like a step back from the New 52 to the Rebirth era. I liked the direction it was going, and this just feels like kind of a step back, which is interesting because I feel like Rebirth was like a real hit with fans, and then DC just like fumbled the bag a lot with Rebirth. Maybe that's for another video, but I think this happened. You see this a lot where like the Rebirth run was going good, and then it slowly like petered out, and then they just went the complete opposite direction and just forgot that any of it existed before. So now there's two Supergirl comics going right now. First one is Supergirl by Sophia Campbell. I didn't read this full volume. I read the first issue of it though. This is probably like the furthest in time we've seen Supergirl. I guess she recovered from whatever crap that went down in the Woman of Tomorrow or whatever. She's on Earth. She's got Krypto the Superdog with her. She is sort of like hanging out at the Fortress of Solitude. I don't know where Superman is. I don't know where he's been for the past couple of years. Wherefore art thou, Superman? Come save us. Supergirl, she goes to the bottle city of Kandor, which is usually at the Fortress of Solitude. In this continuity, it hasn't been fixed yet. And she patrols the city there, makes sure things are good there. She patrols Earth. She gets a call from her parents, her adopted parents here on Earth, and they're like, hey, we moved back to Midvale. Do you want to come visit us? And she's like, ugh. Which I actually like this because I feel the same way. She's like, I do not want to go hang out. I do not want to go back to my hometown. I don't want to run into the people I know. But she goes back, and when she shows up to Midvale, there's a big poster that's like the home of Supergirl, and she's like, what the heck? That doesn't even look like me. And she shows up, and there's like an imposter Supergirl who's been like taking advantage of the fact that Supergirl was from there. She shows up to her parents, and there's a different Kara Danvers there, and she's like, what the heck? Who are you? And like, that's the whole mystery of the run. I'm not gonna lie though, I don't know if this run is for me. It reminds me of the tail end of the New 52 Batgirl, where they clearly switched the target audience to probably like younger, just like young women, young sort of YA comic book stuff, which I think is completely fine. And I think Supergirl is a great character to do that with. But the art was just like really cutesy and kind of like poppy. And like they brought back thought bubbles, which I thought we did away with because usually it's like a square with their thoughts in it, but now it's thought bubbles. But they've also seemed to they're taking this comic to put it stylistically a little bit more in line with the movie. I think the suit is a little more reminiscent of the Millie Alcock suit. Krypto's there, but he looks like the movie Krypto. So I found it interesting, but I don't know if I really want to go back. Like I just Googled who that Supergirl was, because the imposter, because I didn't really want to read on, but I wanted to know who it was. But maybe it'll get really dark or whatever. Not that I need it, even though I'm sort of a product of the 90s where I like that. But either way, I think if I had a daughter, or if you've got a kid, who is looking for like a really fun YA sort of all ages book, that's probably worth getting into. And the last one, I think there's just one issue out of this. It just came out, probably in light of the movie coming out. It's called Supergirl Survive. This is out of continuity, but I do want to mention it because I do think it's interesting. It's about Kara. She's on Krypton. She's got baby Cal, and she's escaping with him and looking for a place to go. And they have to survive sort of the perilous adventure through space to find a new home for them. It's sort of like a lone wolf and cub situation. And I do think that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll wait till the run's done and see what the consensus is, see if it sticks the landing. But that's kind of a cool idea. So I definitely want to check that out. But that's basically what I could find for most of the, like I said, really seminal Supergirl runs throughout the past 30 years or so. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any other great Supergirl books. I know I've missed some things. I know it was probably worth mentioning, like her involvement on Crisis on Infinite Earths. Her showing up in the Batman Superman story. I mean, she becomes a Fury of Darkseid at one point, and she dated a horse once. I'm not joking. Look it up. Again, like I said, I love Supergirl. I love her even more now. I especially really like probably the 2005 to 2000, just pre-New 52. I really think DC was hitting their stride there, especially with Supergirl. So I hope maybe where they go in the future, perhaps with the movies, they can bring her back more to that hopeful sort of thing. And maybe they are. And maybe I should see the movie. Let me know if it's really worth my time based on what we've discussed here. But again, I sort of want this channel to be like, if you saw the movie and want to see more, or want to see the real picture, like what's the story that it came from, I hope you can come here and just like get the lay of the land of where to start. Because I think if DC or Marvel were smart, they would really find a better way to make viewers of the movie come read the comics. We see over and over again, movie sales go up, comic book sales either stay the same or they go down, and they've historically just been going down recently. So there's got to be a better way. I hope to do that because I love these characters and I love these comic universes. But I just think like a Supergirl movie that fails sort of in the way that it does, or maybe misinterprets what people want from Supergirl, is probably bad for the whole just industry in general. And so these are the books that I think probably are the best of what Supergirl can offer. So, but yeah, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in John's Comic Book Corner next time.